Welcome to episode 17 of the WWIM podcast. My guest is the smart, hilarious, talented, beautiful, yet dorky stand-up comedian, writer, actor, producer, surfer. Did I miss anything? Star Wars dork.
All those things. All those
Yes,
things
you are
and
all
more.
you are all those things, which is great because it's not because you don't limit yourself. And that's so, that's inspirational. So are you a middle child?
I am a middle child.
See, I knew it. I knew you had siblings.
Yes, yes.
What was that like? You grew up suburbs of New York City?
Yes, I grew up in suburb. I grew up on Long Island. My family is I grew up Catholic. I'm not Catholic anymore. My sister's older than me, my brother's younger than me. We had a pretty we had a pretty good childhood, a little bit crazy. It's a big family. My parents are both one of six. I have 21st cousins.
Oh
So
my
it's
God.
yeah, so and I think like especially my relationship with my cousins really built a lot of my personality. Because my family is very funny, especially my mom's side of the family. I'm not the standout funny person of my family. Growing up, if you were to guess who would have became the comedian, I don't even think I would have been in the top five. Um, but he grew up on the South Shore of Long Island, and we were big beach people. We had a little boat growing up. It's funny because I grew up in a town called West Islip, which is nicknamed White Islip. It's a very, very white town, and it's kind of a wealthy town. My family was not wealthy. We were more middle class. But because most of the people I grew up with were really rich, I assumed that my family was like really poor until I was older and I realized that we were not really poor. Like I mean our boat was small, but we still owned a boat. So like it's not really a poor person thing.
But you did have indoor gloves you had to wear.
Yeah, I have a bit my special I talk about house gloves of my parent because my parents dropped the heat at night and wearing these indoor gloves, which is exaggerated but semi-true.
Yes.
They did drop the heat at night. It was freezing in the house. And my dad was the only one who had indoor gloves. The rest of us refused to wear indoor gloves, and we would just sneak the heat up and then
But
get
you
yelled
have to
at by my
or
dad.
you had to bundle up, I'm sure, right? Like
Yeah, it was, and then it's when I moved out here to Queens on my apartment, there's it's my apartment's steam heat and my landlord's elderly. So I don't control the heat, but she would always make it so hot and this like usually in the winter I'm opening up windows because it's so
yeah.
hot here. Um and then when I would go back to my parents' house before they moved to Florida, I would be like so cold in the winter because I started getting used to this really warm apartment. And I would be like, how do you guys live like this? Like we're not that poor. Like you guys could turn up the heat. My parents both work really poor, so they raised us like we were in the Great Depression or something. Uh,
Always prepared.
well, it did prepare me for being a poor artist, where I really just knew I knew how to live off of pennies, and I still do. So I guess it was helpful to a degree.
At what point growing up did you feel yourself being drawn towards like the creative performing kind of thing?
I guess always. I mean, I was in plays and stuff in middle school and in high school a bit. Um, And I often was the comic relief in the play, especially when they were musicals, because I can't sing for shit. I'm like probably tone deaf. And I have this really annoying, um, nasally voice. So singing was not my forte, but I did kind of have a comedic timing, and even I would write in roles for myself in plays sometimes, and then I would like ask them to be like, "Yo, I wrote this part for myself." So I would play like these like small cameo comic relief roles. Um, and then my cousin Brittany and I, including some of my other cousins and my siblings and my friends, we would write sketches and film them on my dad's it was a VHS camera. So like literally
VHS.
full
Nice.
VHS, remember, like on your shoulder. Like I mean it looked almost like a studio camera. It was such a piece of shit. It was so heavy. Like so we had one of those and we would kind of do like the very old school slash wrong way to film something where you would you know, you tape the scene or whatever, stop it, and then like we'd have to rewind it a little bit and then hit record and we're doing the next one.
Right.
So
The
just, you know,
right
kind of
place. Yeah.
we had an ongoing show. Like I don't know if you remember on Nickelodeon there was a show All That which was a sketch series for kids essentially. Kenan Thompson was on there along with it, and it was very funny to us at the time. We did all this and that was our we had a whole like sketch show. We filmed all these sketches. Unfortunately, that VHS we had lost in a flood in our basement one time, which would have been
Oh.
equal parts horrifying and hilarious to see what we came up with. But we also did film a parody of Stephen King's It. So we were like kind of obsessed with horror. And we weren't allowed to watch, we were allowed to watch some horror, but we weren't allowed to watch a lot of horror. But when we had sleepovers, we would, you know, find the VHSs and play the ones we weren't supposed to watch. And the movie It was one of them. And it scared my cousin and I so much. Like we literally didn't go to the bathroom alone. Like we would like have to have each other in the bathroom and we were too scared that it would come out of the sink or something. So I guess kind of our way of dealing with that fear is we wrote a parody of it called It's Recorder, which is so stupid. So the plot of It's Recorder is like this girl's like babysitting somebody, and it's like me and my cousin were the same age, so like we're both kids. So
So
for
you're
us,
like
one of us to be an
junior
adult and one of
junior
us to
high?
be a
Are you
kid.
junior high doing this or but like sixth grade?
Yeah, this
How
is
old are
like
you?
yeah, this is probably like sixth grade or something.
Okay.
Um, and the story of that is there's a recorder, you know, like the instrument, the really annoying instrument that the kids play, that's possessed by it. So if you play it, you like become evil, then become this murdering clown that murders people with a recorder, that like beats them to death with a recorder. And that movie still exists. And there's even a sequel, It's a Recorder too. And although I don't think It's Recorded 2 we ever filmed the last scene because it like involved a lot of people and zombies and it was always hard to
Yeah.
commit to my vision. But that still exists and it is the worst movie ever made probably, but it is so funny because it's so bad.
It maybe it inspired the evil Bong people.
Yeah.
That's
So the writing was kind of on the wall as far as like what I wanted, and I was obsessed with sitcoms. I was obsessed with Saturday Night Live. We really only had, well, I guess we had two TVs growing up. We had one living room, one in my parents, and then one in their room. But you know, after a certain time at night, it was like, all right, either you could watch what mom and dad are watching or go to your room and go to bed. And
yeah.
those are options. So naturally, we'd be like, we're gonna stay up and watch what mom and dad are watching. And they watch a lot of comedy. You know, I watched a lot of Seinfeld young, a lot of SNL young. And it just it really it stuck, I guess. I was just became um I was obsessed with I was obsessed with film in general. Like I always was walking IMDb. My parents were always I probably would have been a much better actress when I was younger than I am now because you have like, you know, more imagination, less fear about the stuff when you're a kid like that. And I was wicked good at memorizing lines from movies. Like I couldn't memorize a math table to like save my life in school, but
Right.
I could watch a movie once and recite half the movie. I was like obsessed.
Well, that's useful though. It makes you laugh, and back when I was a kid, that's how you got friends. You were into the same movies or shows, right? And then you would quote them to each other. I have this
Oh, I
idea. I want to
totally
do a
make
short
friends.
film.
If people don't watch movies or TV, I have no idea what to talk to them about. I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I want to talk about politics. It's a headache. So it's like, if you don't watch movies or TV, I'm like, oh shit, like I don't know what the fuck we're gonna talk about.
What are you watching now? Do
I
you
just
do
watched
you
the
still go?
Penguin series, which is really good.
I I just watched the first episode. I'm like, I think I have 30 minutes left of it, but yeah, he's
Yeah,
so good.
yeah, he's excellent. It's better than I thought it was gonna be. I loved pissed off Italians. I love Italian gangster stuff, you know. I'm half Italian, so I love all that. I'm looking forward to Skeleton Crew too, Star Wars Skeleton.
Yes.
Hoping that's gonna be good. Hoping that it's gonna redeem itself from Acolyte, which I did not finish.
Oh God. And it's so funny because yeah, there were things in Acolyte that I liked because they're elements of everything Star Wars. So yeah, I like the lightsaber duels. I like certain things, but just like it wasn't like I don't know if you watched Andor, but like Andor, I was like, I gotta wait a week. Oh, I don't want to wait. Like,
Yeah, Andor was good. I like most of the series. I mean, Star Wars fans are really mean. They love to hate shit, but Acolyte is trash. I'm like, all right, this is this is this. Because I liked a lot of the other stuff that some people hated on, but Star Wars fans are notoriously like kind of annoying about things. You're like, all right, everybody loves to hate shit now. I just noticed. Like, I mean, I'm critical and I'll be like, all right, this is trash, this is trash. But I also can suspend, my belief of certain things and just like have a good time. I'm like, I want to have a good time in some of these things.
right.
And as a Star Wars, I like one of the things that I said with my parents, and my dad was a big Star Trek guy. So I watched a lot of Star Trek when I was a kid, but I didn't really like it because I was too young, I think, to appreciate it. And then when I watched Star Wars, I was like, oh, this is what I want Star Trek to be. Like there's lightsaber fights, there's jokes, there's like whimsical characters, whereas Star Trek was more I guess adults, and more has to deal with, different cultures and stuff. And it's deeper, I think, that or at least then it was deeper than Star Wars. But I was like, once I saw Star Wars, I was like, yeah, this is my jam right
This is the thing. Did you watch the new Star Trek movies?
Yes,
Did you like those?
I did. I liked them. I thought they were good.
Yeah, I didn't think they were amazing, but I enjoyed them too. And I don't know much about the Star Trek that is. I've seen a few of the classic episodes. Like isn't there an episode they don't air anymore because they went to this planet that was like had Nazis on it. Have you
Yeah,
heard of
that
that
sounds
episode?
right. That sounds pretty good. One of the cool things about Star Trek though is how much they kind of invented um like technology in a way. Like so like they invented like cell phones before. Like the flip phone was like first on Star Trek and when they had those automatic doors or those I mean it really was just two guys pulling them and pushing together in the back. But I think the government actually called them up and were like, how did you do this? And they're like, we have people pulling doors on the other end. Like, but then what do you know? Like automatic doors obviously like so much part of our life. We don't even think about it now.
That happens a lot though. Like I mean, like Minority Report had the ads targeted to you specifically. Did you
Yeah,
ever
it's
see
creepy.
Minority Report?
Yeah, yeah. It's so creepy that that's just, I mean, you literally say something and then you get ads on it now.
I
It's
looked, yeah, I was looking for a birthday present for my brother, and then every ad I got was like some version of that. And I'm like, okay, I get you. You know what I'm looking for. Like,
Yeah, there's no privacy anymore. It's very one of the creepier ones was I was just like went on Facebook and there was a jewelry ad on the side and it was like customized jewelry had like names on them and the two names on the jewelry in the ad were Charlotte and Anthony, which are my nephew and my niece's name. And that really freaked me out. I was like, no, I'm like, I'm okay. Well, not really okay, but I could deal with them, sort of Alexa listening to me and, putting up ads of things. But I was like,
right.
you got my, like that is not a coincidence to
That
me.
means you have
Had my,
information.
you have my nephew, my niece's name on there. Like that was so creepy to me. I hated it. And I was like, ugh. Yeah,
One,
it's a little bit unnerving how much we're just going into that where there's just there be completely there's no privacy.
and then with the dawn of AI, you wonder what effect that'll have on everything. I
Well,
mean,
I'm already really sour about AI because I lost one of my writing jobs to it. I used to
oh,
write for radio full time, a radio company. And I lost that job earlier in the year. They fired half the company, and then I found out through somebody there that they basically have AI doing like half my job, which was like kind of like finding and editing news stories. But she said it's terrible, so I'm kind of happy. I'm a little bitter about that. Um, yeah, in some ways AI is a great tool for things, but in some ways it's going after my field definitely. Because AI is not creative, so it won't completely replace creatives. But the thing is, it makes
Hmm.
one creative they're able to do 10 people's jobs with AI now. Uh,
Right.
and you're going to see, I mean, just a lot of people at work. I was never really like that scared of AI until I lost my job of it, and it's so hard to find other writing work, and
Writing
it's
jobs.
like
Yeah.
shit, like this is in trouble. I really now I do kind of believe Elon Musk that this could be like the tipping point of the end of society as we know it, as people just like lose their jobs. And you see it in the grocery stores too, right? Or the stores, like everything's, the checkouts are robots now, and you're like, oh damn, this is but then sometimes I'm like like I was just in the movie theaters last night, and every single time I go to the movies, the people at the concession stand are painfully slow. And like literally they're they're scooping popcorn and pouring soda. And, like this soda, like they just like press a button and it does it like automatically fills the
Right.
cup.
You don't have to.
And then
Yeah.
there's popcorn is literally the easiest job ever. And they're so slow, like it's crazy to me. And this is not just movie theater, like this is and I go to movies a lot, and I go to movies on the road. Every movie theater I go to, Dave, they are so slow. And I'm like, I
Same.
can't wait till the robots are giving me popcorn because like this is you guys are asking for it here.
Even
Uh,
like, even like scanning you in, they don't really have to be there. They let you put your phone under and scan it if it's that. A lot of theaters are like that. Or even going into the Red Sox or a concert now, they're not even doing it. They're just watching you do it.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
Like so yeah, is the AI just going to like replace 30% of the workforce and then put everybody into some sort of, bad recession and depression, and people or are we or is it gonna be like Star Wars where we have like cool droids that we hang out with, like where's the robot? And I don't mean like a Roomba, like where's my Jetsons robot that cleans my apartment?
Your
Uh,
assistant. I mean, that's ideally everyone would have like
Exactly.
AI super smart assistant, right? Hey, go write me a draft of this idea. I mean, I see that like eventually will you just be able to tell a program, I want a Muppets version of the original Star Wars trilogy, and then it'll just make it, and you don't have to do any like, you know what
Yeah,
I
I
mean?
guess so. I mean, that would have like a bunch of copyright issues on it, right? But you could already like AI is pretty creepy because I've experimented with it. Like you could, they're very bad at joke writing, AI. Like if you use
Yeah.
ChatGPT, your jokes are terrible. But you could be like write a joke in the voice of, and I wouldn't work because I'm not like famous or have enough material out there. But if you pick a famous person, like it will like especially somebody who has like books or a lot of specials, somebody on TV, it will write the joke like in their cadence, and it's like
Yeah, well,
it's
isn't there a new Carlin like special basically? Like whole
yeah,
new
and it's
that's
good. Yeah, it's I mean the kind of the hope is that there'll be a backlash on it, especially with art. I mean, the problem is like it'll be more like, right, if you wanted to get an AI painting, it's gonna cost you no like to no money. If you want a painting that's done by a proper artist person, it'll be hundreds of dollars. So it's almost like, American made products versus China bought products. Like, I wish I only bought American products, but would have to be literally rich to only buy American stuff made in America and not made in China. Um, but you hope that there's enough value on people with human made stuff that people are like, nah, this is trash. Um, and same with performing, like, you hope that there's also people kind of get sick of sitting inside, staring at their phones, and they want human experiences, and then they come out for stand-up shows or music shows, whatever. Because it's definitely threatening, and it is a little scary. You're like, oh.
but like, going to a comedy show and watching a special are two different things. They're both enjoyable, but when you're there,
Oh,
you
live
know,
comedy is so much better than
yeah,
comedy on TV. It's not
yeah,
it. I mean, I would say maybe the only person who's like better on TV would be like maybe like Stephen Wright, or maybe not better, but
yeah,
like equal. Almost everybody else is better live. Like go to live music, go to live comedy. It's I mean, to me, that's like all I ever want to do, especially music. I love going to concerts, big concert
yeah.
person. Um, but like that's like culture or whatever, but we just become more and more like I was watching The Simpsons last night on it's like season 34 and
A
Homer.
new one?
Yeah, I still love The Simpsons. The Simpsons is still great.
Okay.
And Homer had to take Bart to a hockey game, and Marge is like, "Oh, well, it's bonding time for you and your son." And he's like, all Bart does in the car is look at his phone while I drive, and then I get to the game and he plays while I look at my phone, and then the car ride home, we both look at our phones. And I just like laugh so hard because like it's so true. And my siblings have young kids, and you do like I'll try to go to their events, or I take them to playgrounds, and you'll see all these parents just staring down on their phones, and then it's no wonder why these
You're
kids are.
breaking up for some reason. I don't know why. Sorry. All I heard was my siblings.
Oh, so my siblings, they have young kids, so I go to their events or take them on a playgrounds, and I see these parents all the time just staring at their phones and like not really being in the moment with their kids, and then they wonder why their kids are so addicted to tablets. It's like, oh, because you're addicted to the tablet, the phone, the screen, and then they just go home and they get addicted to it.
And yeah, who knows what it's doing? I mean,
Oh, it's not
I,
good.
I work I work with first graders and a lot of them play Fortnite,
Yeah.
which I don't think is a first grade
Yeah,
video game. It's
that's
not like
like
it's that graphic, but it's scary. And I'm seeing too a lot of kids that are like pandemic kids that haven't weren't exposed to being around other kids for 2 years or paying it,
Yeah,
staring at a
depending
screen
on
for two
how
years.
old they were, like my nephews and niece were young enough that it was kind of fun for them, and they didn't really miss like important school. But some of those older kids, like who missed their prom or missed some things, like they're just there's I feel bad for them. They missed out on something. And I'm not anti-video games. I was a gamer when I was young. And but I was also outside all the time. Like it was nice
Right.
out, we were running around. Um, but we did play video games. I think I'm not against, especially now. Video games look so cool. I don't play any video games because it would ruin my life. Probably I wouldn't get. It was like some of those Star Wars games, like one of those Star Wars, The Force Awakens, I think, or not Force Awakens, the movie. I forget what it was. I literally watched a YouTube like video on just the plot of the game because it looks so cool. I was like, oh, this looks, and then some of my friends are like
Yes.
obsessed with that game, and I'm like, I know, that's why I won't play
Don't stay away. Yeah.
it.
I'm worried when it's gonna if it gets to like a Ready Player One thing, like
Yeah,
then
yeah.
that'll scare me.
Yeah,
Did
the
you
VR
water?
VR is like cool. The VR is good too. Like um I get why people love it. It makes sense to me.
Yeah. Um. Yeah, it's great. It's good now, and you wonder about in 20 years what it's going to be like,
Yeah, I actually did a
right? Like,
VR show years ago at Gotham Comedy Club that they like they had all these, it was pretty interesting the way they filmed it. They had all these cameras. I've never seen it because it was on Oculus.
so you
I've
could
never
be
seen
like you're at the
I had such a
show.
good set too, and I asked them, but you couldn't get just like straight footage because of the way it was filmed, and I regret not filming it on my own because I didn't really know that was the case going in. But yeah, I guess you're like in the audience, you can look around. So I don't know, somewhere out there on Oculus stand up at
Oh,
Gotham,
okay.
I have a set on there. But I have no idea where it lives or if anybody's seen it because I never heard anybody seeing it.
You killed your special. Weird enough,
Oh,
like
thank you. Thank you very much.
laughter from start to finish. I think there was one joke that maybe didn't hit the way you wanted it to, and you commented on it, but I thought it was hilarious. It was awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's many years of work. I just I got the album. I released the audio album last year, got it on Sirius, and which has been very good. And then I was trying to get it sold somewhere, but it's very hard to sell a comedy special unless you're like have 500,000 followers. Which I don't. So I put it on YouTube. It's on YouTube for free. Yeah, weird
Yet,
enough.
yet, Lori, yet.
Yeah, that is true. Sometimes they will buy it after you post them or whatever it is.
No, no,
But
no, I'm saying you don't have that many followers yet.
yeah, well, hopefully maybe it will
Yeah, yeah.
turn into that. I'm
Well,
very
how many? It's got over 10,000 views, I think, already.
Yeah, it's only a couple weeks. I have over 10,000, which I think is pretty decent. I've never
That's a
really shared
great
that.
start.
I'm really terrible with social media. I'm like such an idiot with that stuff. But it's turned so imperative. Like when I started doing comedy, I was kind of the last generation, and I don't mean my age. I mean when I started. I mean I started pretty young. I was 20, I was in college. At that point in time, comedy almost still followed the old or the traditional model where it was like you do open mics and bringer shows, and then you become an MC and a feature, and you go on the road, and then you become a headliner or whatever. And then social media came in, which is good and bad for artists in many ways, but for comedy it's like you have to be a social media influencer basically, which is not what I want it to be. It's still not what I want to be. But if you aren't constantly on social media, it's like you're just not gonna have a career. So you're just it's so vain, like it's so narcissistic. You like constantly be like, look at me, or whatever. And I've been writing my blog for like 10 years, which I do weekly. And
Big fan.
and oh, thank you. I for many years I never wanted to weaponize sex appeal to get followers or to advance my career. I just really I was a writer or am a writer, and I really just wanted to be taken seriously as somebody who is very clever and writing scripts and doing all this stuff. Um, what a huge mistake of my life that I made. I mean, now I'm like, all right, fuck it. Like I'm a surfer, so I'm like, all right, let's put up bikini pictures galore on my Instagram stories. And it's crazy how much that helps me. I actually have like a method. Like I'll do like thirst traps in order to try to get people to my blog. Like I'll be like, all right, I'll post all these thirst traps, and then I post my blog and hope that that will like increase, which it actually does help. And it's crazy. Dave, I should have been doing this. Oh, I'm 35 now. I should have been doing this since I was
Well,
20. Like,
it's never too late. It's never
I would
too late to
probably
learn
have
a
so many
lesson.
more followers. It was just like, I was like, I don't have anything against women who like do that. Because I know some female comedians that really, they will, you know,
But a
um,
lot of them that do that, Laurie, a lot of them do that have that and nothing else.
that's true. That's true. They
You know what I'm saying? You
started
can
with
do
that.
that and
They
you
were
have the
like, and I'm
creativity,
not gonna like
talent.
name names, but then there are people who kind of did it like a little bit later, but I was like, oh man, you gotta use every tool you can to fucking get noticed in this industry. And I was like, well, I guess I should have been flaunting my boobs and my abs all along.
I was gonna say, if I posted pictures of myself in a bikini, I don't think it would get a similar response.
I'm
But
like, God damn it. It's so funny because people have been telling me that. And I was like, no, it's like not gonna be what I'm gonna do. Like, I really want to be respected by comics. And I also really wanted to be a comics comic because I admired comedians so much that I was like, I would rather um have the approval of the comedian standing in the back of the room than the audience. And Colin Quinn told me that's where I made my worst career move ever, was trying to appeal to the comedians and not the crowd. Because I mean, I guess I would kind of consider myself a comics comic in some way. Like it's like, oh, but it's like I'm like, oh yeah, I wanted to impress the comedians in the back of the room who don't really laugh, and they're just like, oh, that's really well written. That's funny. And sometimes
So
I'll be
who
over the
are
audience's head, and I'm like, oh, I made mistakes. Uh,
um, comic influencers that influenced you? That is, you mentioned Seinfeld, Colin Quinn, who you've worked with several times, I believe. Who
yeah,
else? Who else is on your?
fudge. Nick Griffin, who was just on The Tonight Show, and he has a YouTube special recently too. And Nick and I, we wrote scripts together when we pitched a couple of TV shows together. Um, and I think he's one of the best comics there is. But that type of style, that's much more um joke dense and short jokes. I'm not really a storyteller, comedian. I'm kind of envious of storyteller or people who are like character um comment, like someone like Maria Bamford is one of my favorites, and she could do so
Yeah,
many voices and things like I just don't have. That's not one of my talents in my holster. But um yeah, I love tight joke writers, and it's becoming less and less common because comedians are so anxious to fill time, to get to that 45 minutes or an hour, that their bits become very wordy, and I'll be like, oh, okay, like this is a good bit, but you would cut half of those words out and make it shorter. Um and obviously now also crowd work is becoming more and more popular, which is, I'm not a crowd work comic. I'm not against it by any means. There are some comics who are brilliant crowd work. But what's happening a lot, you'll see if you follow a lot of comedy, is comedians just post so many crowd work clips. And I understand why they do, because it's so hard to write good bits, to hone good material,
you
that they
don't
don't
want that out.
have
Yeah.
material until they, like, are going to get it on TV or release a special or an album. Um, so they're just trying to fill content because that's what you have to do. Like I said before, you have to be constantly producing content. But most of the crowd work is like, it's so bad. It's really bad. And I also feel like it's making audiences dumber and worse because they're coming to shows thinking that they're going to be a part of the show, and they will
Wanting to be
exactly, like,
like,
they'll talk to you or heckle you, and they, in their mind, they're helping you because they're like, oh, they see this on Instagram or TikTok all the time, or this comedian rips it to heckler, and then they're like, they coming in with that mentality, and it's nauseating to me. I wish that there was like the one comedian I would say who I love her crowd work is Jessica Kirson. I mean, she's a great comedian in general, but hers are the only crowd work clips that I'll actually like stop and watch on Instagram. And everybody else I like roll my eyes. Even some comedians that are my friends, and I love them and I think they're hilarious. Like, oh, they'll post a crowd work clip and I'll be like, oh.
I tend to, if I'm performing and someone does that, whether it's a heckle or just a comment or like anything, I'll make one I'll acknowledge it, one quick comment, and then just be like, "You're not," and that's it,
Yeah,
and
that's
keep and
generally what I'll
continue.
do too, because I'm not a crowd work comedian at all. And like, I'm a writer, and it's like and I just want to get to what I've written down. I'm capable of
If
have
you,
moments that are organic, but
yeah.
yeah, it's I've and if one more comedian releases a crowd work special, I'm gonna like personally punch them in the face. I'm like, enough of these crowd work specials. Write a goddamn joke.
What would you?
Also, like, if you're not a big comedy fan, or you're not in comedy, sometimes people are more like, the average viewer is more wowed by crowd work than somebody who's in it a lot, right? Because they'll be
Right.
like, oh, like they're so smart, like that's so off the cuff, like blah blah blah. But you'll find with comedians who do a lot of crowd work, if you see them all the time, it's the same jokes, because generally
Oh
speaking, the
yeah.
audience isn't that original. So they'll throw something out, and then it'll be like you know, um, they have a holster of comebacks for things. So it's like, same with improv shows. Like, there's some improv that's like totally brilliant, and then there's some that's like, oh, like the first time you see, it, be like, oh, this is great, and then like you literally go back and you'll be like, oh, it's kind of the same.
Do you see the Family Guy where they go to improv and yell out crazy stuff? Did you ever watch that?
I
See
don't know.
that
I've never
part of
seen
Family
that
Guy?
one. Yeah, but improv
They're
people,
like, "Name,
improv people
what's
can be
that?"
improv and like stand up. We're two different camps, and it's like,
Yeah.
as stand-ups, I feel like we're like a little bit more snobby. We're like, but with the exception of like, I feel like improv is like almost like pizza in the sense where it's pretty easy to do mediocre improv, but it's so
Yeah.
hard to do great improv. Um, so that's kind of how I feel about that.
Yeah. And what about easier to do improv than stand up, you think?
Um, I would say yes, but they are two different muscles.
Yeah. When I was a senior in college, my younger sister is really talented actress and singer performer. So when I was a senior in college, I was like, I'm gonna take acting 101. It'll be fun, right? And I was awesome. We did improv for a lot of it, and I was great at those. But then when we had to do an actual scene and memorize lines, I was so bad. I was like, I don't know how my sister does this. And like you said, it's a different thing.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
you've done it all. You've acted, you write, you perform. Like, what's your like? Do you have one that's like? Do you like writing more than performing or acting or like them all? Like,
I consider myself a writer first,
okay.
before a performer for sure. Um, and performing has its own rewards. But ultimately, I think I would rather be Bernie Taupin than Elton John. Like I would rather be the person behind writing all the things and the person like it's in a way you want to be famous, right? Because it's a measurement of your success. But fame doesn't interest me as much as money does. I would rather have a bunch of money for writing things than to not be able
And
to.
not have people not know who you are. Yeah,
Yeah, well, it's like
right. Because
I mean, I'm friends with some famous people, and like if I tour with Colin or Jim Norton, like I mean, I both of those guys wish that they were more successful and more famous, even though they both have great careers. But I mean, they have pretty good careers in the sense where like they do get recognized almost everywhere we go, but it's not like crazy, you know. I feel like with some other people, like, dealing with stardom, it can be very trying. You can't like there's no you can't be anonymous in your life anymore, and always have people like it, it that's not very appealing to me. I see why some actors come off as like dicks because they just don't want to, have people coming up to them all the time. And then there's some people who
right,
love
and plus, yeah. Plus, you never know what kind of day someone's having when you meet them, right?
Yeah, for sure. It's like these people are still human. So, and I'm rarely starstruck, sometimes starstruck, but I will very rarely like go up to somebody and ask for them a picture or something. But I had one time I was with one of my cousins, and there was a famous person in a restaurant we were at, and she was like, "Oh, I'll go ask him to take a picture," and I was like, "Yo, he's having dinner with his family." Like it's one thing if you're like walking by and you like see them or whatever, but I was like, that's like rude. Like don't, like just leave him alone. For his
My
friends.
my first time ever going to a show at the Comedy Cellar. I've still haven't performed there, but Jim Norton was the biggest name on the show. You know, it was like a showcase. And then I'm just walking down the street after the show, and there he is, just sitting there, just like. And I couldn't like my mind was like, wait, that's not him. That couldn't be him. And I was like, it's him though. Like,
Oh, Jim's a
not that
nice.
I was starstruck, just more like shocked. I think New York's more than LA or like bound to walk into someone like that.
Yeah,
And he was cool.
Jim's the nicest guy ever. He would be very he's a sweetheart.
Yeah.
Very approachable. Um, and yeah, it's
Um,
yeah, it's great working with anybody who's, it's opening for people who are known comics and they draw, a comedy crowd that's like really there and then for there for savvy comedy is such a pleasure. Because sometimes we perform in these rooms and like you're like, do you guys even like comedy? Like, why did you come? You're like, I don't even know if you guys like comedy. Like, though when you perform for people, who have a comedy audience, yeah, it's the best. And
I
that's like my
um,
comedy audience, so they'll be like, oh, we We're here to see your flavor of comedy, whatever that is.
Do you Brian Glowacki?
What
Have
was
you heard
that?
that name? Brian Glowacki.
I don't know if I know who that is.
Okay. He was headlining once, and there was a bachelorette party, like a big table, like in front was reserved. A bunch of tables in front was reserved for this party, and everyone was there to have a good time except this one woman clearly did not want to be at a comedy show. She was just like a whole show, and like like eventually he addressed it, and it basically like turned the whole table into like a big, like they were at each other because like, oh, she didn't want to go and he didn't want, like it was hilarious. So
Yeah,
yeah,
that's
people,
horror.
you
It's like
never
just stay
know if
home.
people are going to be there for the right reasons. What's that?
Just stay home. If you don't really like
Yeah,
stand up, like don't
right.
even leave. Like instead of like heckling or being pissed, like I don't know, if you're in a movie you hate, like just leave. And also like the
Yeah.
people who complain to like owners who like if they don't like the comedian, like I hate those people so much because it's like, yo, that comedian on stage, like you complain to unless they're like which it would be really hard for them to be really offensive towards me, like, but it's like, there's people like they'll go complain they're being dirty or they don't think they're funny or whatever. And I'm like, yo, that comedian on stage, this is their livelihood. They might have families to feed, and like you complaining to the owner or the manager, that might affect them not getting booked again. And now you pulled money out of their like just fucking leave. If you were at a movie you didn't like and you would just leave.
Yeah.
You wouldn't be like trying to get the director fired, you know?
Take down this whole theater, like.
Yeah, exactly. You'd be like, all right, let's go home. And also do a little research too. Like people will just go see headliners without doing any because certainly comedy is subjective. So not every comedian is for everyone. And like chances are you're not going to go to a movie without seeing the trailer first or without knowing a little bit about the movie.
The
Um,
director, like I went to a Tarantino movie and there was a lot of violence. I couldn't believe it. Like,
So it's like, oh, I don't know, maybe do your due diligence. Unless you're going to like a showcase at the cellar or something, you're gonna get like a lot of different comics or any club has showcase shows. But yeah, you're gonna go to a weekend show with a headliner. Like, I don't know, maybe like look them up on YouTube real quick and see if you think like, oh, this person is funny or not to me. Um, and just
and
be a smarter consumer. Same with you. The chances
do
are
you
you're not
think
going to go
that's
to a concert without not knowing anything about the band or knowing one of their songs.
right? Right. Do you think that's sign of the times though? People have that mentality. Oh, I'm gonna like, I feel whether they feel bad about themselves or just pissed off at the world, and I'm gonna take someone down with me, kind of thing,
Yeah,
and get
everybody,
attention.
like we were saying with Star Wars fans, it's people have really become haters. People love to hate things. And it is like, all right, like especially with entertainment stuff, it's like, all right, guys, like, take it down. This didn't like, okay, you lost an hour and a half of your life and $30, like it's not the end of the world here.
Right.
People loved it, and with stand up too in particular, a lot of people think they could do it. People really underestimate how difficult stand-up comedy is. Not everybody, 'cause sometimes people come up to you after shows and they're like, I think what you do is one of the hardest things we could do. And I'm like, thank you. I worked really hard. And it is really difficult. But some people they just think like, oh, I can like go on stage and talk and be funny, and you're like, all right, well, then do it. Like one of my favorite things sometimes is you do fundraisers and like somebody in the fundraiser is like, oh, I'm gonna do stand up. And I love watching those people bomb. The ones who like they're just so cocky that it like, and I'm like, no, I'm like, you don't understand. You people who do this are, 10,000 hours. Like, go put in your 10,000 hours if you think you can do this. Um, but yeah, people love to be offended. People love to be the victim. And it's really nauseating. It's like, all right, like just fucking suck it up and go home. Like my thing, it's almost like anything. It's like like we live like I'm a capitalistic person, and your vote is your dollar. So it's like if you don't like a comedian or you don't like a product, just don't buy it. Like it was even with haters on comments. Like my blog, like I did this one, I don't even know who this guy is. He commented on multiple of my blogs, like how much he hated them. So, but I was like, so you hated one blog and then decided
And
to
then
read,
went back.
they decided to just keep reading them and then be like, no, this sucks. Not funny. Like, and one of the ones he wrote, like, not funny. Like, it wasn't even a funny blog. Like, it was a really serious one. I'm like, all right. And I'm like, why would you just continue to read a dozen of my blogs to hate on them? Why wouldn't you be like, oh, I don't like this. Like, I'm gonna go read something else that I do enjoy. Like people just love the hate consuming. It's so strange to
Uh,
me. I would never buy a
that's
pair of shoes that I hated and then continue to buy those shoes just so I could comment
that was
on Amazon how bad these shoes are and how many times I bought them. It's like, well, you're mentally ill. Like just
it.
okay, stop then. Just don't buy those shoes again.
That was that was an SNL skit. Oh, this tastes gross. Here, try it.
Yeah, yeah,
Remember that
exactly.
one?
It's just
Uh,
annoying. You're like, all right,
do you? I mean, I think some people think if they're really, really negative, they're more likely to get a response. You think that's part of it?
yeah, for sure. Just like people who are trolls, like
Yeah.
and then look, some comics love to feast on the trolls. I found you kill them with kindness. Like if somebody comes at
Yeah.
me, I'll be like, "Oh, thank you so much for watching." Like especially some of
Yeah.
my older sets. Like, there's an old clip on me of me on YouTube from this comedy time TV thing I did when I was like 3 years into comedy, and I signed the rights to it at the time, which was very stupid of me. Which was part of the reason I went put my special on YouTube because I could have got a buyer to get it on a couple different things, but I would have sold them the rights to it basically, and I didn't think it was worth it.
And
Um,
they could do whatever with that.
yeah, so that's short. I mean, it's all over YouTube because they slice it up in many different ways. They even like I have a joke about having a flat butt, and then I have a joke about pulling the plug on my great aunt. And they put the like clickbait of the title to say that I love butt plugs or something like that. And it got so many hits, and I was like, I reported it. I was like, this is me, but I'm like, I've never talked about butt plugs on stage, ever. Like,
Until now.
I have no butt plug jokes. But it was funny because some of the comments were like, this girl's funny, this girl's not funny. But some of the comments were like, this girl never talks about butt plugs. Um, but that's
believe me, believe me,
old.
I wouldn't know if she did.
Yeah. It's so old and I'm very green in comedy and my delivery really is not great. My jokes are fine, but like they're not, not my best. But I can't get these videos down and they'll have all these comments on them and some of them are very negative. But now I'll just like the comment and then I'll be like, thank you for watching. You're right. My delivery was not that great, but I'm 10 years later into comedy and like here's my new special. So you just kind of like kill them with kindness and they just like shut up, I find. Even on Twitter and stuff too, just like be like really nice to them. You're like, oh, thank you so much for taking the time to comment on this or read this. I really appreciate
um,
because the thing is actually negative comments also help you. Any engagement helps you also.
just
So
get more views or whatever, or get more clicks.
it's well, you're like, all right, just fucking. I mean, sometimes it's hard to not get upset about certain comments. And I think for one of my Gotham set, some of the comments were insanely sexual. And I think some of them YouTube took them down. Because the comments were just like this one guy wrote, the funniest thing to come out of this girl's mouth is my dick. And I was like, that's kind of like more an insult to you than me. I'm
You're
like,
right.
weird
Saying your dick is
insult.
a
Like,
joke.
I'm like, I don't know, like, what the fuck is wrong with your dick? Like, um, but yeah, I mean, it's best to not read your comments, but sometimes
Yeah.
it's hard not to.
Well, because like you said, I think people that are trolling like that a lot are it's a sign of some sort of mental illness or
Yeah, well, that's
you
the thing too.
know.
Is chances are this person's like living in their mom's basement or something. They're like a big fat slob. Like, I remember one time I was doing the Borgata, and I've done the Borgata a bunch of times, but I had one show that was not particularly great, which happens, especially the casino crowds, like who are not even really there to see comedy, like they got free tickets from like gambling, and then they went to go see the show, and I was kind of like standing in this corner, and this extremely gross, grossly obese, grossly dressed, like just disgusting woman came out of the show, and she was just like, and she didn't realize I was there. She was just like bitching about how the female comic, which was me, was like not funny. And at first I was so upset about it. I was like so upset this woman was just fucking, and my friend was just like, "You really care what that woman thinks about you?" Like the woman is wearing like stained, ripped sweatpants, and she's like 350 pounds, like she's like yellow teeth. Like this woman's obviously like dumb as shit, and there's like nothing going for her. You really give a shit about her opinion of you? And I was like, yeah, I guess not. Like I don't know why I gave that woman any mind of not liking my If anything, I should have been actually complimented that this woman was not my audience.
Well,
The woman
I was
taking
going to compliment you.
cigarettes out of penny slot for the next 7 hours and spend her social security check there. Her family doesn't visit her. Like this is not the type of people you really want on your side anyway. So who cares?
I was going to compliment you on, you mentioned that the guy commented that this isn't funny and your blog post was a serious. I was going to compliment you for doing that. You write about the spectrum of things you write about is very, very dark, serious, into like dark, deep thoughts or experiences you've had, all the way to the silly, you know, whatever it was, or the bathroom humor stuff, or whatever sex stuff, like
Yeah.
the sillier side of things, and that's very admirable. And a lot
Thank
of people
you.
don't do that.
I mean, I started that blog so over a decade ago. It kind of the idea of the blog was really right to write for myself. I was like, all
Yeah.
right, like I'm just gonna, I'm gonna write one blog a week, stick with that, and really kind of write how I feel. Like, yeah, sometimes it's funny stuff, sometimes it's dark stuff. I'm manic depressive, so I go through depressions a lot, and I'm honest about it when I do. And I do find that it worries my family sometimes. But I do find that people find it refreshing because social media is so like, everybody's just fake on there and showing the highlights of their life or whatever. Like I've had so many times where I see somebody I haven't seen in years, and like based on their social media, they're having the best life ever. And then I run into them and it's like it is just telling me how like awful everything is. And I'm like, oh, like I would have reached out, but I like all I see
Didn't
is like, you living your best life. And um so, life is hard, and everybody's life is hard. Everybody's going through something or dealing with something or someone that's rough. So I do think people are just like, oh, thank God, like I'm not like, alone in and suffering sometimes. It's it's just more genuine. So yeah, I try to keep it, I try to mix it up or whatever. But a lot of times, yeah, it's just generally how I'm feeling or whatever. And I just try to be as honest, and I also try to kind of use it as a writing exercise. Sometimes I try to change how I write stylistically or whatever. I mean, I think as a writer, any type of writing you do is not a waste. And um, I used to have a podcast of my own. I have I'm thinking about starting a new one, but um, I I don't know. There's so many podcasts out there, and I don't keep up with it. I'm like, I can't do this. I used to have a horror podcast with Nick Griffin too. We used to review some horror movies. Um, but sometimes I hear some people I think like the blog better than podcasts. I've heard some people say that too. They're like, well, sometimes the podcast, they're like, your blog, I just like sit on the toilet and read it. And I'm like, well, that's a great place to read it. So I probably did the same thing. I'd be like, oh, okay, let me just read something while I'm on the toilet real quick.
Do you have a certain time of day or night where you're like, this is my writing time. I'm writing from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. or you just whenever something goes in your head, like how does it work for you?
Right now I've undisciplined with a writing schedule. I used to be much more disciplined with a writing schedule and of what I would write at certain times. I really should get back into it because it's so helpful. But sometimes it's hard to fall out of bad habits, like especially when I lost my job. I really and I'm working sort of various jobs to keep myself afloat in hopes of trying to get another writing full more consistent writing job because I freelance. I freelance for Gutfeld, but it's it's not every day. Um so yeah, I should get back on more of a schedule. It's very good for you to be like, all right, this is the exact time. Every successful writer
Yeah.
has that basically, but I'm not in it at the moment. Guilty.
You can get there. I go in and out as well. Have you ever read Stephen King's On Writing?
Yes, great book.
Yeah, it's so
Great.
good, and that tells you that's like the
Like
writing muscle. If you want it strong, you gotta do it every day.
yeah, yeah. Like anything, just gotta do it. Make a daily habit of it. One of the best, I don't do this anymore. I wish I used to do this every day. I would do morning free writing, which I kind of was in the habit of out of college, where I would just write 1 to 2 pages of free writing and then throw it out immediately. Just throw it.
Oh wow,
If
interesting.
if I wrote like a sentence or an idea that I liked, I would transfer that into a different notebook. But those 2 pages you would crumple up and throw out because it was like kind of like freeing to be like, all right, let me get what's on my mind out of my way so that this way I can write what I write. That's a great habit and I should do that again. I used to do that for years.
When I was in high school, I would get up and write my dreams, and then I got good at lucid dreaming because I was just
Oh.
better, more aware of when I was dreaming and not. I don't do that anymore, but that was fun.
I dream every night and I don't write them down because I try to half the time I try to forget what I dreamed. But I am a frequent lucid dreamer. I actually wrote a book, a fiction book called Lucid, which never got published or anything. But it was about a lucid dreamer who basically started confusing their real life with their dream life and
Hmm.
which is almost like creepy because I don't know, it's like life imitates art. Like there are times where I wake up from dreams and I like there'll be like mundane things. Like I had like this conversation with a family member or like I cleaned something in my apartment or like I got ready and then I wake up and I'm like, oh shit, I didn't do that. Like I just dreamed that. Um that really makes me feel crazy. I'm like, oh fuck, I'm going crazy. This is not good. Just so losing my mind.
Ah, well, Lori, we've been talking for an hour, and I have enjoyed every second of it. Do you want to plug? You want to, your special Weird Enough is on YouTube.
Yeah, Weird Enough, it's on YouTube. Just check it out. Lori Palminteri, Weird Enough. My Instagram is Go See Lori, GOSEELORI, which people often thinks is Goose Lori, which is terrible. I made it Go See Lori. Nobody can ever spell or remember my last name, Palminteri. Like if people never remember it, so that's why I did that. But I do. You can follow me on there. I post things. I post some thirst traps, so that just come for the
click,
bikini.
click, click the
Or
bikini pics to get
or
to the
come for the
blog.
vlog, stay for the bikini pictures. They just say, right?
Thank you so much for being my guest. It's been awesome.
Thank you so
Good
much
luck and,
for always being a fan and supporting. I appreciate it.
and keep in touch. Talk to you soon.
Bye.